several questions like that. Channel 7.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you mean, the Channel 7. Do you people have questions you'd like to ask of the providers?
Well, I think the issue of the, like the $29.99 service is really these two. I think the
You mean
public,
the suck-in service?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right. And it's almost like, I don't know that I've ever seen it say, this is for new customers only. And so I think that, yes. Okay. Yeah, because that's one of the issues that I know was raised, maybe by one or two of the written
Pictures on it.
29.
I think that's a great idea. Maybe we can go through the two I won't read and just pick up
I think you might be on.
a few issues. Yeah. And these are all addressed to Spectrum.
The channel thing, I mean, I don't get channels anymore.
I think we're probably.
Okay. Maybe we could ask them directly to talk about that. Jamie, are we ready? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're live. I'd like to welcome you to the 2018 performance evaluation by the city's Telecommunications Cable Advisory Board. This is a open meeting as required by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. The act is posted at the back of the room for people who are interested. The purpose of this meeting is to give residents of Lincoln an opportunity to advise the board on their experience with the city's cable TV franchisees and internet providers. If someone wishes to testify, we'll have them come up to the podium and sign in, and we'll listen to their remarks. I want to quickly run through the agenda. We'll be introducing the key participants, making some announcements, talk about the background of the performance evaluation and the board itself. We'll give the franchisees an opportunity to make a statement if they wish. We have some statements that have been submitted in writing, and we will read those. That have a request that they be read aloud, we will read those. We'll take public testimony, and then we'll adjourn. If this process goes long enough, the board may take a break to give our chance, take care of, stretch our legs and so on. I'd like to first have the board members introduce themselves, so if we could start with Dr. Lee.
Lori Thomas Lee.
Becky Henderson.
Steve Eglund.
Helen Meeks.
I'm Art Zickelbaum, chair of the board.
Jim Johnson, I'm the secretary of the board.
Cindy Lamb, Lincoln City Council.
Ying Xiao Song.
John Neal.
Thank you very much. We have city staff here. We have Steve Huggenberger, who's an assistant city attorney who works with our board, And we have Diane Gonzalez, who's the manager for City Communications. I'd like to introduce our franchisee representatives. From Ella, we have Brad Moline. From Charter Spectrum, we have Jeremiah Blake. And from Windstream, we have Brad Hedrick. People wanting to testify, please come up, as I said, and sign in and testify. I want to let people know that we're doing a telephone survey of residents during the month of September to get more information on how our franchisees are doing and about the expectations and the future of cable TV and the internet amongst our residents. Comments and suggestions besides the survey and besides this event may be submitted via email, fax, or mail before September 30th as part of the process. The email is dgonzales, DGONZOLAS @lincoln.ne.gov. Faxes may be sent to 402-441-7120. And mail can be sent to the Telecommunications Cable TV Comments, City Communications, 555 South 10th Street, Lincoln, Nebraska 68508. And that information is posted on our website, on the city site. The Telecommunications Cable Advisory Board, formerly the Cable Television Advisory Board, advises the city, the mayor and the city council in general on telecommunications, on policy issues, and especially on cable television. We also respond to specific questions from the mayor and from the city council. Members of our board are appointed for 3 years. They are volunteers. Our cable TV franchisee agreements authorize the board to conduct a performance evaluation no more frequently than once per year. We did the last one in 2014 when our only provider or franchisee was Time Warner Cable. The room was packed at that time. We had a lot of concern and complaints. Things have changed. For one thing, as suggested by our residents and through the very hard work of our city staff, we now have 3 franchisees providing television, cable television in Lincoln: Allo, Charter Spectrum, and Windstream. The charter of the board was also expanded by the city council and mayor to include all telecommunications beyond cable. And with that authority, we're also examining our internet providers. The major providers to residents in Lincoln are Allo, Charter Spectrum, and Windstream, or companies using one of those providers for their customers. This performance evaluation is made up of several parts. Questions were prepared for our franchisees, and they were answered, and responded back to us. This hearing is being held as a part of that process to gather more information. As I said, we'll be conducting a broad telephone survey to gather statistically valid information on how providers are doing and what our residents expect. We also solicit written statements from our residents on their problems, things they're happy with, things they'd like to see done better. The board will compile and analyze all this information and provide a written report to the city on the state of telecommunications and cable television in Lincoln. We hope to finish that process later this year or early next year. We're working hard to make our evaluation process as open as possible. Questions from the franchisees, for example, will be posted on our website. Some of the things we gather may not be appropriate because of size to put on the website, but they will be available to the public to look at. Do we have any questions or comments on what I've said so far about what we're doing and why we're here? All right. We do have 2 statements that were requested to be read aloud as part of this from customers. Well, before I do that, I'm sorry, I wanted to give a chance for any of our franchisees to make a statement if they would like to. Not your last chance, but if you'd like to, this is a good time. All right. Let me read these 2 emails. First, this was an email addressed to me and to the board. My views about Spectrum. I write this as a concerned citizen and an angry consumer. I am a lifelong resident of Lincoln and a former member and chair of this board, the Cable Advisory Board. I was on the negotiating team for the last franchise renewal of what was then known as Time Warner Cable, which has merged into what is now known as Spectrum. I regret the day I voted for renewal of the franchise. During the last few years, service has almost evaporated. All executive offices have moved out of Lincoln, and prices have continuously gone up. You cannot talk to any local employee above the grade of private first class. I've been in business for 55 years and do not expect perfection, but the way this franchisee does business is not acceptable. For example, starting last Friday, I tried to turn on one of our TV sets. Up popped a sign advising that there was a problem. I was to call an 800 number, not the local number. I tried to call numerous times and could never get a live person or even a non-live voice. I was placed on hold for 20 minutes several times. I tried again the next day and same issue. When I called the local number, same drill, placed on hold, bad music, and told how great the company is and would I like to buy more services. In the meantime, there was nobody on the other end of the phone. For some mystic reason, the problem TV started to work about 4 days later, but the kitchen TV then inherited the illness that debilitated its big brother. Same song, second verse. This time, I was connected to a male voice in San Antonio, Texas, with a first name of EDEA, no last name, and no phone number. But he did give me his extension, but without giving me the phone number so I could reach his extension. He was so sorry and promised that a repair person would be at our home between 3 and 4 p.m. and all would be well. Well, the repair person did not show, nobody called, and all was not well. Later that day, my wife tried to call, and they were on their way, but failed to say where they were on their way, and it certainly wasn't our house. We have had this issue for over a week. We had continuous problems since the new company came to town. Spectrum does not deserve to be in business, let alone have a franchise from our city. Signed, Herb Friedman. The second email that was asked to be read aloud came from Ms. Sunny Stewart, was addressed to Diane Gonzalez for the board. I would very much like to have this read at the hearing Tuesday. I am a longtime retiree from Lincoln. Because of health issues, one of my hobbies and pastimes is watching TV. I enjoy a most diverse list of programming as well as Netflix, etc. I decided some time ago to have 4 televisions in our house. All 4 are the latest, greatest, digital, high def, etc. Have whole house DVR. All our smart TVs as well. Also have Spectrum, internet, and phone. No corners cut on the hardware. Over the years, as Cablevision became Time Warner and Time Warner became Spectrum, I have had continual problems. I know the trouble number by heart. I would guess the whole fleet of repair people have been at my house at one time or another. Almost always a cable box problem. My most recent experience was last night. I was told they could not fix on the phone. It could not get there until Friday, 3 days. I found this kind of service, being without my TV for 3 days, unacceptable. I eventually got it working by myself. Also seems that most of the time I get repair people overseas that do not speak English well, or someone in North Carolina. I pay $200 a month for this service every month, forever, and I expect it to work. I have found Spectrum to be unreliable and unacceptable in view of the cost. Unfortunately, I am not sure Windstream or Allo are any better. Very frustrating. Thank you for your time. I think these companies should be accountable for their service. Signed, Verge Stewart, Lincoln. Would you like to summarize the one you were talking about, Ellen?
One of the areas that we have had concerns expressed, and it's about the $29.99 monthly fee for Spectrum service. And people think that, or I'm not sure if there's any inclusion that explicitly lets consumers know that this amount is for new customers, because several people have indicated that they didn't realize that to be the case. Secondly, there's not an indication, as far as I know, as to the validity period for this $29.99 fee. If it's going to be valid for a year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. And again, I think consumers should be or expect to be told how long that fee would be effective. And thirdly, there's concern that people who have been with the company for a long period of time is not given any kind of consideration for remaining a customer. And so there's an indication that perhaps there should be a similar kind of offering as a reward for sticking with the company. So that's one of the areas of concern.
Another complaint we got was on the loss of KETV Channel 7 from the Spectrum lineup. People have complained about that. So that issue, why is it so difficult to get a live person? People are concerned about service interruptions and how long it takes to repair them. And also, there's a lot of concern about the cost of cable here in Lincoln and the amount of price increases. So that kind of summarizes the complaints we've seen. We've had complaints with the Allo build out of lines being cut and holes being dug in yards, but the number of complaints we've seen on that have gone down. Actually, the total number of complaints on all the cable services or internet services has gone down. Things seem to be much better than they were 4 years ago, the last time we tried to do this. So, any other comments from the board? Would we have nobody to testify at the moment. Would any of the providers like to make any comments, especially in regard to what we were just reading?
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I'm sure. May I ask a question of staff? Probably Diane could answer it for me. I'm wondering, because we have these emails that were sent, whether we have, I guess I'm wondering if folks don't make complaints in writing, do we keep a log of complaints that are received by phone call or anything of that nature? And because I do get some complaints, but I'm not sure if I should be sharing them always with you, Diane, if I should refer people to call you. I always tell people to write in, but in the event that they can't or aren't so inclined, do we have a log where we keep folks that are calling in with complaints about any of the providers?
I don't receive many phone calls. If I do, I write down their name and their number. I ask them to send in an email, and some of them don't want to, so I'll take down as much information as I can. And then I usually forward that to the chair and to the provider. But we really don't get very many that come in through the phone.
Would they be received by anyone else other than you?
Our ombudsman sometimes gets them, and she passes those on to me as well. But usually the ones that go to the ombudsman usually come in through email as well.
Okay. And then lastly, I'm a huge advocate of downloading the Uplink app, but I honestly haven't gone on there myself to see if folks can make comments or concerns about the telecommunications and our service
Right.
providers. I know about taking pictures of potholes and uploading those, but I'm wondering, are they able to make comments or complaints on Uplink?
They will be able to do that.
Okay.
As you know, we switched the format from to what's called the see-click fix format just recently. And so we are gradually adding questions and concerns to Uplink. John and I had been on a committee, and I think Steve, you were on that committee too, that looked at some kind of online complaint or comment system that people could use on the city website. Right now, we have a link on the board webpage where people can comment, although most people don't really know how to find that very well. So we were trying to come up with some kind of online system, and then we switched to the see-click fix format with Uplink. So we are in line to have that added to Uplink, but it takes a little while for them to do the work to add different things. So, and yeah, potholes, are priority.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, question, if people out there don't get satisfaction in dealing with their provider, what are the mechanisms that they can complain to this board?
Usually by sending me an email is the best way, or by sending me a letter through the mail. Email is easier because then that makes it easier for me to share with you, and then also to the provider. And then when the issue is resolved, the provider sometimes contacts us back and said, we've got this issue resolved. Most of the time that happens when we get the email ones. And
Thank
all
you.
the comments that were sent through email and through mail for this particular performance evaluation have been sent to the providers as well.
Okay.
And I'll continue to do that through September 30th.
Right. Right. We'd like to, in the comments that were received by September 30th, gives us time to work and analyze and put this all together. We had to put a time limit. That's roughly the time that we should have completed the telephone survey too.
We'll take comments all the time, but for this particular performance evaluation, the deadline is September 30th.
Very good point. And thank you for all your good work supporting us. Appreciate it. And that, for people listening, this telephone survey is very important. One of the things that may surprise you is the world of electronic communications is changing out there. A lot of people are cord cutters. They're getting away from cable television. They're moving toward internet distributed television services. And we want to get ahead of that and understand get in a position where we can recommend to the city what they should do in response to those changes. The classical model of the cable TV appears to be slowly going away. So, any comments? Any of our providers like to make any comments on this? Diane?
I was just going to say, if you don't have anything going on at the moment, we can take a break and we'll run a message on the screen that we're in pause. So, you don't have to
Lori has-
Okay, thank you.
Lori has-
I wanted to ask if perhaps, relative to some of the complaints that we saw, the themes, for example, the TV stations no longer being carried from Omaha, and the confusion with the $29.95 offer, if at least the representative from Spectrum would like to address that, so we could have that explanation made available to the public. That one works probably.
Hi, so Jeremiah Blakey with Charter Communications. Just a couple of quick comments regarding the KETV channel. As my understanding, pursuant to federal law, we're required to carry what's the local channel based on federal rules. And so previously we had been carrying the Omaha channel, which was out of market for Lincoln. And when it came time to renegotiate that carriage agreement with the station, we couldn't come to an agreement on the terms of that. Again, I won't presume to know how those negotiations went because I wasn't part of those negotiations, but the two parties couldn't come to an agreement. So
Well,
that
people
station
watching
was
may not
gone.
know that the cable company actually pays a fee to the
That's
broadcast
correct.
stations.
That's correct. So
And that's what
every
was
time that
negotiated.
every channel that we carry, we have to pay a fee to the station in order to have the right to carry that station. So again, as you talk about the price going up, a lot of that is due to the carriage fees that we have to pay the different stations in order to broadcast their channel. So
And normally you wouldn't be required to carry the Omaha stations because they're out of market. You
That's
have to
correct.
carry the stations that are in market, which includes Hastings and Grand Island and such. But that was grandfathered, and so you could have negotiated. So you're saying it was
Sure.
just a failure in that negotiation.
sure. Again, we had the same issue in western Nebraska where, again, a number of people would like to either have the Lincoln station or the station out of Rapid City, but they get the station out of Denver because pursuant to federal rules, that's what's considered local for them. So it's an issue in more places than just Lincoln. So with regards to the $29.99 advertisement, do you know, was that for the voice service? Was that for phone service? That's the commercial I would be familiar with. So, I mean, if you could get me some more information on that, I'd be happy to look into
I actually
that.
think it says for, I'm not sure if
Yeah.
it says for internet or which, but
Right.
a number of people are confused by it because they think that somehow it means that they would be eligible to
Right.
receive the advertised service for $29.99, regardless of the length of time that they've been with Spectrum.
I think some even think it's each of those TV, internet, and phone, each were $29.95. And we're even adding it up, thinking that that should have been the total amount,
Yeah,
that times 3.
okay.
But
Well, yeah, if you know, again, as you receive those complaints, feel free to send them my way, and we're happy to look into it and, see if we can clarify anything that's misleading or needs to be corrected.
I will note that when we've sent you complaints, things to deal with, that you've done a nice job of resolving them. We do appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate the working relationship and continue to be a resource for you. So thank you.
Do you want to address any of the issues as long as we've got you in the hot seat, or are you okay?
I'm okay. I'm anxious to hear what people have to say tonight. I appreciate the written comments we've received so far. We'll follow up on those and, see what went wrong. And again, we'll happy to receive the comments we get tonight. So thank you.
And we are
is it possible in another 3 years to renegotiate with the Omaha stations? When
I'm
you
not
go through that
again. I'm just
retransmission
not I'm
consent?
not familiar enough with how those negotiations go to really comment on how that.
I just wondered
how
if that
that
was possible,
goes.
that they could come back, since there does seem to be a real demand and interest for the Omaha stations.
Sure. Again, I would say anything's possible. You never say never, right? But I just don't know the details of those discussions or how they go. So
Well, the follow-on on that question is the same thing true of KNSB, the Hastings station, versus Channel 6 in Omaha for NBC?
could be again.
Or is that prevented by federal law, or is that something that can be negotiated?
No. As I understand it, it's an issue of which station we're required to carry. Okay.
Okay.
So there are the local ABC, CBS affiliates that we're required by federal rule to carry as part of our cable service. Then it becomes what additional channels may be added to that. And with the KETV channel, it was, again, just because of the negotiations, we couldn't come to an agreement with the station, and so we dropped that channel. So
Jeremiah, before you leave, another theme somewhat through these is the issue of not being able to speak with a live person. And see, and I thought that Spectrum had people who would be taking calls. So can you address that?
yeah, again, there's obviously an 800 number. We make that 800 number available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also offer online chatting. You can send emails, and so there's different ways to get a hold of a customer service rep. One of the things that, again, I've heard the complaint that sometimes you get shipped overseas. Our CEO is committed to bringing all of those call centers back to the United States and repatriating those positions, so you're talking to somebody in the United States. That's a process that takes time and isn't going to happen overnight.
Well, you closed a calling center here, right? There was one in Lincoln.
Yep, we had a call center here in Lincoln, and that was recently closed earlier this year. And it was one of the smaller call centers in the country. So again, we can gain efficiencies and provide better customer service by consolidating some of those services in other areas, just in things such as training and technology and those types of things. So when you call as a residential customer, you're not getting one answer in Lincoln, Nebraska, another answer out of North Carolina, another answer out of Texas. So again, just having consistent experts who are able to respond to the customer's issue is the goal.
When the Channel 7 was dropped, negotiations failed, presumably that was perceived by customers as part of the package that they were paying for. Was there any compensatory action taken? Was there a reduction in monthly bill, or was there an addition of some other channel or some other offering?
If you want, I can add you to the list of channel change notices we send out. We are constantly making changes to our channel lineups, either moving channels, adding channels, and removing channels for different reasons. So again, I can't stand here and say that there was a direct cause and effect for customers as a result of that change. I'm happy to go back and look at that, but as I stand here right now, I just can't say that.
So you don't know the answer?
I don't know the answer, no. Yeah.
And we're in the position where we can advise the city, but we're not a regulatory body, and we certainly can't get deep into your business practices, because that's up to you. But I know we do have a lot of complaints about prices going up, actually, for all the providers.
Yep.
I know a lot of that, some of that at least, is not under your control, because you're buying these television services from somewhere else. You want to make any comment?
Okay. You know, it's unfortunate. You know, the good thing for the city of Lincoln is that there are 2 other competitors for video services. Not only that, you can get a number of channels for free over the air. You've got satellite service providers, and a number of customers are going to what we call over-the-top services, where you can watch Netflix, Hulu, and those types of programs. So, you know, again, the great news is that customers have a choice in what they're willing to pay for, and you know, again, we think we offer a competitive product compared to what the other providers provide. And so, you know, again, we're always watching the market and trying to make sure that we're competitive, and we'll continue to do that.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Sorry to put you on the hot seat, but I
No,
appreciate
that's all
your
right.
answers.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Do we have somebody who wishes to testify? If you'd please come up and give us your name.
Rob Pickle. Do I need to say my address? I watch the city
think-
council meetings. I know they do, but I don't know.
Do you want
This
to
is my
have his
first.
name spelled, or do you have it?
How do you spell your last name?
Pickel.
Okay.
I think that's good enough.
Thank
If
you.
you've registered, we'll have your address, so that's
Okay.
fine.
I thought I'd just share a little story recently that I had with Charter. I've had their cable internet for a long time, and they call you a lot about their new streaming TV service. And I've always told them no, wasn't interested. But then the last time they called saying there was a 7-day free trial or whatever. And so I signed up for it, only to find out that, you know, they advertise how all the channels are available on your phone, everything's great, watch it wherever. That's actually not true. You can only watch it while you're on your Charter internet connection. So if you want to watch the TV on your phone while you're at work, on break or something, it doesn't work. So I said that that's not going to be something I can get use out of. So I went to cancel, and that's kind of where a fiasco really happened. And it was interesting. Somebody, I'm not sure who it was. I was just listening as I was walking over here, but about the calling in, and used to be, you could say I'm calling from Lincoln, and they'd pick up, "Hello, this is Time Warner in Lincoln. What can I do for you?" Well, I've got their phone number memorized, 4210300. And if you call that, what happened was I got somebody who told me I got the wrong department. I've got to transfer you. So I get transferred. I get to them. They tell me I've got the wrong department. I've got to transfer you. By the fifth time, I was a little irritated, and I said, "Look, this is not okay. I'm tired of being, fifth. I think somebody's playing a joke on me here." So I said, "What I'd like you to do is just stay on the line, get somebody that I need, and then bring me in." And he said, "Hold on 1 second." The next thing I hear is, "Thank you for calling Charter." So it actually took me 9 people before I got to somebody who could cancel the service. I feel like maybe we're picking on Charter a little bit here, but I've generally been satisfied with the cable internet that I get from them. But when you want to call into the customer service, man, getting rid of that call center was just really bad. And I don't know if it's their process in hopes that you'll hang up. They just transfer you around, and most people wouldn't stick through 9 different transfers, or they'll say, "Well, I'm in Ohio," or "I'm in Florida," and I don't know where ultimately I ended up. The other thing that they didn't tell me was if you cancel within the 7 days, you don't get the 7 days free. And so I ended up paying for 5 days, which wasn't that big of a deal, but just another thing to throw on there. The other thing I was going to mention is on Reddit. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Reddit. It's kind of an online forum type thing. There's a Lincoln subreddit, And there's always people on there saying, you know, I just moved to the city, who should I sign up with? And it's amazing how everyone loves Allo and everyone hates Charter. Like, I've never seen somebody say a good thing about Charter. I've never seen anyone say a bad thing about Allo. Unfortunately, where I live, which is over on 12th and F Street, we don't have Allo set up yet. So hopefully that's coming. But unfortunately, for Charter, I guess I should say, as soon as it is available, I'm jumping ship. So that's my Charter experience. I guess, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just going to ask, have you looked at Windstream as a possibility? Can that
I did have Windstream a long time ago. Unfortunately, I live in an old building, and because they're using old DSL, like Charter can get me 100 megabit down. Windstream not only couldn't get that speed, but it was really unreliable. So I've lived in the same building about 10 years. I tried Windstream at the very beginning and didn't end up sticking with it. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys talk about the small cell for the wireless carriers, but I figured I'd throw in while I'm up here. We're getting beat up pretty bad online about our high fees and how Verizon and AT&T are not going to continue expanding their small cells because of how much we decided to charge for those, and that makes me kind of sad. I don't know how much you follow the wireless stuff, but when Verizon recently announced their 75 gigabyte deprioritization plan, I jumped on that. I use my phone all the time, and to hear that, you know, they're stopping or limiting their small cell rollout because of our extremely high fees on the poles it's kind of sad, but there's a website, Fierce Wireless, and they have written several articles recently about our high fees there. So I just figured I'd throw in there that we might want to work on that too.
Oh, as you can probably guess, there's another side to that story.
I'm sure. I heard the presentation when he gave it, and you know, Verizon stood up there with him and acted like they were happy about it. So I don't know what happened, but yeah,
Well, it's not really the purpose here. It's important because it goes to the future of where we're going. in
Yeah,
telecommunications.
definitely.
Steve, I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Sorry.
That's what I'm here for. All right, David.
Yeah.
I said Steve, it's David Young,
David Young, yes.
who used to
Public
be
Works.
Steve. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So,
You want to introduce yourself, David?
David Young, Public Works Department, Fiber Infrastructure Manager for the city. The issues with AT&T's letter and Verizon's letter to the FCC, we've submitted follow-up comments to the FCC regarding AT&T's letter. Patently, there are several pieces of information in their letter that are misinformed or attempting to misinform the FCC. Verizon's letter recounts a lot of federal law issues that we are addressing currently, and we'll be drafting a response to hopefully by the end of this week. The issue we have, the public right-of-way is the public's. The public pays for that right-of-way. The cost of that right-of-way is 50% more than buying a private easement in the same area. And as the public trustee for the property, we should not be picking winners and losers between cable companies or fiber companies or wireless companies or natural gas companies or water companies or sewer companies that use the right-of-way. Everybody should be treated equally. That's why it's called the public right-of-way. The fees that we established for small cell attachments were created in partnership with Verizon, were submitted to national companies to validate the pricing model, to ensure we were using the public right-of-way to the highest and best use, and not picking winners between different users of the right-of-way. We had 3 companies sign agreements. We have signed agreements and are working with other companies to deploy additional broadband infrastructure. The challenges that Fierce Wireless makes in their article and the letters that AT&T and Verizon submitted to the FCC are part of a national strategy, trying to push this concept that 5G should be the preferred method that broadband is delivered. We disagree with that. It should be delivered by Charter, it should be delivered by lots of companies. And we should be technology neutral in our management of the right-of-way. So I appreciate you bringing it up. It's challenging for us to sit back and be beat on a little bit, but recently, even at the BDAC level, no prices were created, and that inherently says that at a federal level, it is very hard for the federal government to come to Lincoln, Nebraska, and New York City and tell us that our property prices should be the same. That's really difficult. More importantly, at a state level, it's very hard to say that property prices in Lincoln are the same as they are in Mullen, Nebraska. And that's where we're trying to balance. So I really do appreciate you bringing it up,
Sure.
and I appreciate the board asking me to comment on that.
Would it be appropriate if I asked a small follow-up question? I know in Omaha, Sprint has just, exploded small cells all over Omaha. And I guess, I don't know what the charges are there compared to us. Like, obviously, we've got a smaller population, and so there's less revenue for them to work with. But as far as I know, I don't think Sprint has put up anything recently here. So I'm just curious if we
Sure.
know about.
So our second agreement that we signed was with a third-party provider that was a partner of Sprint Mobility. And they have confidentially provided us information regarding why they have not deployed in Lincoln, and it involves frequencies that they own in Omaha and they do not own in Lincoln. It has nothing to do with our agreements.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure, happy to.
Well, your question is very well posed, and I do appreciate it. It's something we need to look at for the future. I think the thing you need, that I want to emphasize here, and David is one of the people who made this happen, is we had one provider in 2014 at our last hearing. We now have three. One of them is fiber to every home, which is a project that was started up several years ago within Lincoln. So I think the city, is doing an outstanding job at trying to move us in the right direction.
Sure.
There's going to be hiccups and there's going to be problems. And
Yeah.
I think it's, part of the reason we have fiber is that people were complaining. They were standing up, we need competition. Well, now we have competition, and I feel very comfortable with what the city is doing. So as you read this, my advice is take it with a grain of salt,
Oh,
because
sure.
there's another side to the issue. There's
Sure.
another story that's going here. You're very fortunate. I feel very fortunate. We've got some very good city staff who are working these issues.
Yeah.
But keep our attention on it.
Yeah, sure.
Don't feel bad about
Well,
writing us or calling us.
I think the one that's right across from where I work went up, so that's all I need, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have 23 that hopefully will be completed by the end of this year. So, and we are working to add more.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question or your comment, and feel free to write us anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. With that, why don't we take a break for about 10 minutes? All right, I believe we're live again. Welcome back. This is the Performance Evaluation Public Hearing for the Telecommunications Cable Television Advisory Board of the City of Lincoln. We've had one citizen testify. We've had some good discussions with representatives from our cable TV franchisees, and I thank David Young for a good discussion on microcells. So, at this point, during the break, I talked to Todd Haynes, who is the Director of Plant Operations for Allo, and I'd like him to address some of the issues. The only complaints that we've received so far on Allo have to do with the construction, the build-out. There was a time when a lot of holes were dug in a lot of places as part of that, and some people were complaining about damage to things, utilities cut, and that sort of thing. I think those have largely been resolved. The number of complaints has gone way down. And let me invite Todd to come up and talk a little bit about that and talk about your success in building out Allos.
Thank you, sir, fellow board members. Just want to give a quick update on the construction progress.
Quickly tell us who you are.
Todd Haynes with Telecommunications, the Director of Plant Operations.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Heyne.
Thank you.
So, quick update. As you know, the project started in 2016, which was originally supposed to be a 5 to 6 year project. We significantly accelerated the build schedule, and now we're hoping to be significantly done with major construction operations by the end of this year. And that includes areas that we've expanded to, includes the Air Park area, which wasn't part of the original design, and some other areas around Lincoln that have been added. So currently, we're over 80% complete. We are actively building in the Country Club area of Lincoln, as well as the areas directly south of the Capitol. Again, we're very optimistic. We've implemented numerous changes to our processes specifically to reduce those customers' complaints. Those include notifying not only with our direct mail and with knocks on doors, but we have an outreach team that goes out ahead of the construction and goes door to door and visits every address in an area that we're going to build. And that has been one of the best changes we made. We've reduced our construction complaints anywhere, dependent on the month, but upwards of 50% reduction. And from our conversations with our city partners, we also noticed that the city has significantly to almost eliminated complaints to the city. So we're really proud of that effort and the folks that have taken that work on. Again, a lot of hard work. We have a lot of teams working in Lincoln. It's one of the largest projects in the United States, if not North America, and it's going extremely well. So, pending questions.
So we believe there's really good response for Allo's build out. You're building your customer base and doing pretty well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that looks good for the city. It looks good, obviously, for you guys too. And appreciate you having here. Having you here and your willingness to talk about this.
Anytime. We're very fortunate to have great city partners, and we're really looking forward to finishing Lincoln and delivering exceptional service to the citizens.
One thing I will mention is that we have cable TV franchise agreements with Allo, Spectrum, and Windstream. But we also have an internet or broadband franchise agreement with Allo that was signed as part of the process. And I appreciate that you've been very candid in your responses to our questions on internet, and I very much appreciate that.
Sir.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
that. We have no other people to testify at this time. I want to reiterate that all our process is open. Things that we go through, documents we evaluate will be available to the public, as will our report when it comes out. We would like to keep this as open as we can amongst our partners as well as with the public. So unless somebody else has something they'd like to address, I suggest we go back on break. We're obligated to be here till 7:30 to see if people who couldn't get off work and want to come testify want to come do that. But We'll go on break and we'll come back, say in about 15 minutes. Hi, welcome back to the public hearing. Welcome back to the public hearing for the Telecommunications and Cable Advisory Board. This is part of our performance evaluation. We're here in the City Council chambers taking testimony from citizens who want to tell us about their experience with cable television and the internet. We have no more testifiers, so we're obligated, though, to be here until 7:30 in case somebody shows up. So what we're going to do is we're going to back on break. We'll come back on in about 15 minutes, and if anybody's showing up, we'll give them a chance. Otherwise, we'll make this announcement again. Thank you. Hi, I'm Art Zickelbaum, the chair of the Lincoln Telecommunications Cable Advisory Board. We're holding a public hearing as part of our 2018 performance evaluation of our cable TV and internet providers. And we have nobody to testify. We will be here until 7:30 in case somebody wants to come late. We're trying to accommodate people's schedules. We could use your comments and your thoughts. As you can find out on our website also, you can write to us, fax us, email to us, and we'll get your comments into part of our analysis for our report. With that, we'll go back on break, come back in about 15 minutes in case we have anybody show up. We're going live for a minute.
For an hour.
I'm Art Zickelbaum, the chair of the city's Telecommunications Cable Advisory Board, and we're holding a public hearing as part of our 2018 performance evaluation. We have no more people who have come forward to testify, so we're going to go back on break for about another 10 minutes, and if nobody has come, then we will adjourn. We've been talking amongst ourselves. Actually, I think this is a very good thing that we brought competition to Lincoln. Our cable providers are out there doing a pretty good job, and the number of complaints we've been getting has gone way down. So I actually think this is good news. But with that, we'll go back on break for about 10 minutes. Hi, I'm Art Zickelbaum, Chair of the City of Lincoln's Telecommunications Cable Advisory Board, and we're holding a public hearing as part of our 2018 performance evaluation of our cable franchisees and internet providers. We've heard all the people who have come down to testify, and we've had some good discussions, but we've come to the end of the meeting. I'd like to thank everybody for persevering, especially the board members for being here. Of course, they're all volunteers, they get paid nothing, but our city council member has promised to take to the city council and double our salary because we work so hard. But again, and Diane Gonzalez and Steve Huggenberger, I'd like to thank you for supporting us and being here. And with that, we're going to adjourn this meeting.